Rhoda Sikilabu wants to become one of the few women elected to the National Parliament of the Solomon Islands, and her ambition has taken her nearly 4,000 kilometres to Lilydale, on the outskirts of Melbourne. The Pacific Women's Parliamentary Partnerships program brought this provincial MP from the island of Santa Isabel to Australia to work with an experienced member of the Victorian Parliament, Christine Fife. Her journey is part of an Australian aid project seeking to encourage more women from across the Pacific to enter their male-dominated parliaments. But not all candidates can win at elections, and both politicians shared how they coped with past disappointments at previous elections.
As you know, Rhoda, I was elected in '99, and in 2002 I stood again and I lost my election, I lost the campaign. I found it extremely painful process. I think I probably curled up in bed and sucked my thumb for a couple of days while I got over it, because it's not just losing your job, it's also your ego and your position in the community, that to get up and to challenge again, to try again, is difficult. Have you had to go through that?
I was elected in 2006, the first election that I won, and I was re-elected again in 2010, but in between I tried to run for the National Parliament and I didn't get through. To me, I shouldn't be embarrassed, I shouldn't be disappointed. I want to try again. I have this determination to try again, because winning and losing is, I feel, all women are holding hands together and we are working towards an achievement that if one wins, we all rejoice. If one loses, we will all contribute to participating and helping that woman to win elections again.
The Deputy Speaker of the Victorian Legislative Assembly sees many similarities with Rhoda.
Rhoda and I are very much alike. We may look differently. We are of a different generation, but in many ways we're very much alike. Both of us left school at 15. Both of us had children early. We both have 5 children. We both love the country. We both like growing our own vegetables. I've got chooks. Rhoda has chickens. We have all those similarities, and we both have a passion to make a difference to our communities. So we may have some cultural differences. We've lived in different countries. I was born in England and then came to Australia as a migrant. But our values are the same. It's family, it's community, and it's helping those who need help.
Rhoda Sikilabu hopes by winning a seat as an independent in the National Parliament at the 2014 elections, it will encourage more women to enter the political fray.
Yeah, like in most societies, we face the same kind of barriers. Women find it hard to be elected to Parliament. But if women are elected to Parliament, I think that is fair. The right for a woman to be an equal decision maker with men, I think that is the whole thing that I would like to see in my country. Not because I'm a woman, yeah. Rights of women to be equal decision makers with the men, I think that is the thing that I would like to see. Because being one woman, I think it's hard for me to make a big change, but at least one woman, 2 women, or even 10 women, I think that would be equal representation for women in my country.
The women like Rhoda will change that gradually in the Pacific. As they become more prominent, as they're achieving things at a grassroots level. There's an old saying, there's more than one way to skin a cat, and Rhoda's a great example of what she can do for her community with very limited resources, so that the recognition of what a woman can achieve is spreading out in ripples across the community.
As part of the visit, Rhoda was able to see firsthand how Australia's 3 levels of government work, from local councils to state and federal governments. She also discussed crime prevention, visited a health clinic and toured a community support service for people with special needs and other disabilities. The Mayor of the Yarra Ranges Council welcomed the increased participation of women on his own council and hoped Solomon Islands followed suit.
Female representation is very important, and I find that when we have women that have been elected to office, are very conscientious. They've had to fight very hard to get the position that they're taking on. And what I've found from female representation in all levels of government is that once that person's in and elected, they never give up. They've got the same determination they've always had right from the time that they were first elected.
I realised politics is just changing the things in the communities, assisting school children, assisting a family that they need assistance to get a solar for the house, or improving community buildings like schools, community halls for the community to use.
Women are absolutely equal. Women can be treasurers, women can be speakers of the House, women can be prime ministers. There is no difference. The caring and nurturing role of women is that we look at all aspects of society. So yes, women do need help for the basic health care in some of the countries, and they need help with starting the micro businesses. But I would imagine the most important thing to most of the women anywhere that I know in any country is the education of their children and the opportunities for their children.
But campaigning on the Solomons is far from easy.
And to travel from the other end of the constituency to the other end is quite difficult. We have to go through rough seas. Sometimes it rains and it's windy. But we have to go through those kind of difficulties, and I keep going. When it comes to walking on land, some rivers will be flooded if it's rainy. I have to wade through flooded rivers, or I have to swim across. Or I walk through creeks and muddy places. And some villages right up inland, I have to spend the night in those villages. And we have all these mosquito bites and harsh climbing the rocks, and yeah, it's a big challenge, but that's the way I go. I have to face that, I have to do that in order to get my message across to the people.
I'm a typical, I think, politician. I door knock and I complain if it's too hot, I complain if it's wet, I complain if I've got to walk up the hills and all of those sorts of things. I won't complain again, because Rhoda's story was when she was going to meet potential voters, she had to trek out into the bush. She had to virtually walk over mountains just to see 20 voters here, 30 voters there, swam across flooded rivers, got tipped over in her canoe and stood in front of people making a speech with dripping clothes.
And I really believe that it takes the heart of a woman to really achieve these things. And that is why I feel when there are no resources channeling down to our communities from above, I would like to be there, because I see that nothing is happening, and I have seen that money is not properly used.
Rhoda Sikilabu welcomed the opportunity to see firsthand how the Victorian Parliament worked, and Christine Fyfe's role in it as a member and the Deputy Speaker.
I think this is a great impact for me, coming to Christine, sitting in her shoes, experiencing and seeing all these things. I think without aid assistant, I would not be able to come.
Well, both countries follow the Westminster system with, of course, our own individual variations. So I'm looking at today being very valuable for out of how we do it here, and the structure and the rules, and why there are certain rules and why things happen in that way in the operation of Parliament. I hope that our reporting methods will be sort of explained, and accountability.
Despite the challenges ahead, both women remained optimistic about more women being elected to parliaments across the Pacific, particularly with the continuing support from AusAid and Australia's federal, state and territory parliaments.
But when you look back in history, it's not that long ago that we only had 2 females in this parliament. The first time we had 2 females in this parliament was in 1972 or 73. It took a long time. So there are a lot of similarities. There's just 2 or 3 decades of difference.
That is my challenge, that I would like to be elected to that level, to the national parliament, that I can make things easier for men and women altogether.
For more information on this issue, visit www.pacificparliaments.net.